All right. Good evening, good morning. Hello. Yeah, hi everybody. Nice to see you all back for this week. Um, this week, hopefully, we keep it short and we only have we only have a couple workshops because hopefully you're all getting ready to go to Taiwan, getting your visas, packing, all of that stuff. Yesterday, I heard some good news from a couple of the ETAs that they already have their visa. So that's awesome, which hopefully, that's good news for everybody else who's still in the process. And it seems like it wasn't that difficult, but um, which again is good news. Just remember, everybody's situation will be different. When you go in there, or when you, for example, I have to mail in my documents to the LA TICO office. I know some people in like DC and Boston are able to make appointments. Um, so just be patient. But like I said, it looks like good news overall. Um, so yeah, let's see. Oh, we got a good group today, 35-ish people. So today we will be talking about classroom management. We will keep it basic since a lot of you are new to a classroom. So we're just gonna give you tidbits about what to do once you get in there, so that you just don't feel like we're throwing you to the wolves or something. So uh, simple stuff. Maybe some of it is repetitive for those of you who do have some training or who have been in a classroom. Just bear with us. I'm sure there could be something that might be new. The first part, I will be taking care of that myself. And then for the second part, I will turn it over to Matt and Sean, who will show you a video of how all of these things come together. And then at the end, if we have time, I have some other stuff maybe that goes a little bit deeper. If not, that's fine. We will cover it some other time. So let's do it. All right. Where's my? Why isn't it changing? There we go. All right. So as a little warm up for today, we're gonna do a think share. Usually it's a think pair share, but we'll just keep it think share, just to keep things moving a little bit faster. Sometimes virtual stuff takes a little bit longer to get through. So we'll just think share. So what I would like for you to do is think about your favorite teacher, your favorite professor, your favorite instructor, a favorite tutor that you've had when you were in elementary, middle school, high school, college. And can you tell me, why did you like them and what made them a good teacher, in your opinion, as a student? So what did you like about them? Anything goes right now. So just brainstorm a little bit. And let me give you 1 minute. I don't need a paragraph, just keywords. Keywords that you can think about this professor, teacher, instructor, tutor. All right, so I want to show you one of these tools that I'm presenting for you today so that you can see it in action. So we're not going to use the chat box, and I'm not going to ask for volunteers. You can see I have a list of your names. Hopefully, most of you are here. So this is a name picker. Let's see who is voluntold. Tyler, are you here? Let me check.
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome, Tyler. Would you mind telling us what you came up with? Anything that came to your mind?
Yeah, sure. When I think back to a teacher or professor that I really liked, definitely one thing that stood out to me is like whenever a teacher is like they have humility. So for example, if they realize that they said something wrong or something like that, there's like, oh hey, sorry everyone, my mistake, and then they kind of go over, what was wrong, and then kind of tell us what's correct. So I think humility is something that I like in an educator.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, I love that answer. Yes. All right, I'm not gonna go. I don't want to comment too much because as we go along, we will be coming back to them. Okay. So that's an awesome answer, and I really appreciate it. Thank you, Tyler. Let's choose somebody else. Karanina, are you here?
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yay! Yes, I can hear you perfectly. How about you? What did you come up with?
When I think of my favorite professor in college, one thing that comes to mind is that I really don't like a lot of fluff or rants or getting off on tangents. I really like my teacher or professor to be straightforward and give us the information that we need.
Definitely. We've all had those professors, right, who just ramble on about something unrelated. Yeah, thank you. Great answer. All right, let's get a couple more. So, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good. Did you come up with anything?
Yeah, I was just thinking of a high school teacher I had, and I was thinking how she had a structured class. So kind of like Karenina, like we weren't going off topic a lot and like fostered good discussion. And that she definitely challenged the students, but wasn't like too pushy about it, and also just willing to meet outside of class, which I appreciated.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So this was the college? No, you said high school, right?
For high school, yeah.
Yeah, wow, a high school teacher meeting outside of class. That's awesome. We always remember those teachers. Cool. All right, let's get one more. I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Okay, Sina is not here. I'm looking at the list. All right, somebody else. Miriam, are you here? Oh, she's not here. Okay, somebody else. Help me out here. Ryu, I'm sorry. Are you here?
Yeah, no problem. Rajai. When I think about
Guy,
my
okay.
favorite teacher, I think of my history teacher in college. I had an 8 a.m. class with him, and I really hated getting up early, but he had really interesting stories and made history seem like something that happened to him, and he had like all these tangents, but it was like still interesting. So, I mean, he just was very passionate about what he was teaching, and that just came through during his presentations.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, sometimes even if we go off tangents, those of us that know how to control them, it's like you said because they relate to what you're talking about and they help you understand and process the content. Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's do last one. Last one. Kiana, are you here?
Yes. So one of the things that I liked about, again, my professor in college was a history professor, but you can tell that he was so passionate about what he was teaching. And so that passion translated into the way that he taught, and into the way that a lot of us learned the subject, because it wasn't like a boring, tedious class where it was like trying to like filter people through the class. Like people were there because they wanted to be there. And so like for a large lecture class of 500 students, you can feel the passion.
That's very hard with a lecture of 500 students. I remember those classes. Ooh, chemistry 200. Yeah, that passion that, you know, when you see that somebody who has that, no matter what they're doing, it gets you and it grabs you, right? Oh my God, these are great answers. Thank you guys for that. So, about your answers, think about even other stuff, other characteristics about your favorite professors, instructors. And today we're going to put all of these into 4 types of classroom strategies. They all fit somehow, somewhere in there, and you'll get my gist. So the first one is management. This is when, you know, you have rules and expectations for student behavior. This is pretty straightforward, rules and expectations. Then there's instructional strategies that give structure to time, to your class, to your content, and interactions for learning the academic content. So it's when that professor, that instructor is ready, is being professional, and they have their class ready to go, and they're not all over the place. Even if they go on tangents, it's because probably they're helpful for the content. Then there are interactional strategies. This is the contact between teacher and student, or student to student, or a group of students, of course. This is how you interact, even if it's, you know, in a student teacher level. There's some respect there. There's humility in there, and you're showing that to your students as teachers. And the last one, thinking strategies. This one's a little bit out there, but hopefully with the example that I give you, maybe it'll wrap up things together. Thinking routines help scaffold thinking. So we are so spoiled in the U.S. that we're so used to our teachers, our professors asking us about our opinion. What do you think of this? What do you want? Do you hypothesize about this? Do you analyze that? We are given those opportunities to, you know, develop our thinking, our critical thinking, to not just take things as they are for their face value. And, you know, as students become more and more familiar, you just use them independently. All of you, I'm sure, you know, you are able to do this with your eyes closed. But in other countries, in other settings, maybe even within the U.S. in certain schools, certain teachers, because again, everybody's different. Some students may not have these opportunities, and these drive learning. All right. So again, a lot of the stuff that we do in our classroom comes down to these strategies, and there's management, really. All of them fit into some type of management. Are we clear? Do they make sense? If not, I have some examples and we'll go through them so that you can start seeing the connection. By the way, I saw in the chat room sorry, Charlie, something that you wrote about teachers and professors knowing your name. Yeah, definitely. When they call on you by your name and they're like, hey, you, that makes you think, oh, this notice, as a student, and hopefully for good reason. Not because, you're jumping around or causing trouble, which is what happens. All right, so now you can use a chat box. In this box, I will show you an example of some type of management strategy. And with the number 1, management, 2, instructional, 3, interactional, or 4, thinking, just tell me, what do you think it is? Ready? All right, let's put in the chat box. Using a name picker like I just did. What is that? Management, instructional, interactional, thinking. Ooh. Is my mic still really bad? All right, 3, 3. Okay, we're going. Okay, all right, cool. A lot of you say 3, interactional. Well, let's talk about it, okay? Because to be the management part of it, the management aspect, haha. Using a name picker, it's just easier to get things, moving, especially if you know that your student. Okay. How is it now? Is it better?
I think it comes and goes, but for the most part, it's okay. So.
Okay. I can only switch to my speaker, and I don't know how good that is. But if it's really bad, Sean or Matt, can you let me know, and I'll just switch to speaker. Cool. So even though I told you which one is it, it's actually 2. So number 1, management, because like I said, it gets things moving a little bit faster. Sometimes it depends on the activity. It depends on what you're doing. So it can get just things a little bit faster. So what you would want to do when you go to your classroom, so before you go to your classroom, is ask your LET to help you assigning English names. A lot of you may have your own opinion about choosing English names. I know I do, because I use an English name and I had a very strong opinion about it at some point in my life. So comfortable, if you think that's a route that you want to take, make sure your LET helps you with that, because probably they will be in the classroom before you get there. Or if you let the students choose, it's actually pretty fun, because you get to see a little bit of their creativity, or some of them choose really silly stuff, and it's kind of cute. You might also want to have a seating chart or some system, so that when you go in the classroom, you know exactly each student where they are supposed to be. Again, this is just management, like in your classroom. And if you have a name picker, you have whoever name you called, and you know exactly where to look. I mean, maybe you look at your chart, but then look up above, and you'll see where that student should be. And that helps make things a little bit smoother, especially at the beginning when you don't know their names, when maybe if you're working on your Chinese, it might take you a while, but you'll get there. So that's the management aspect. But as all of you said in the chat box, number 3, interactional. And as Charlie mentioned earlier, when your professor, your teacher knows your name, that's, making that, okay.
All right, let's try my speaker. Is this a little better?
It's a lot better.
Awesome.
At
Okay.
the moment.
There might be some background noise at some point, so I apologize for that. So when you start using your name picker at the beginning, that helps you remember their names. So eventually you will remember their names, you know, and that creates that connection with the student, like, oh, they remember my name, even if it's an English name, because it might take them a while to respond to it too. You know, both of you will have that some sort of rapport, and it's just nice to know their names. The students will really appreciate that. If you don't want to do a name picker, but you do want to, you know, you want to practice their names, or you if you're like me, have horrible memory. It's really hard to remember, you know, 200 and something students' name, but I learned by association. So you can have a roll call variation. So you call their name and you ask them to tell you their favorite color or their favorite animal. And you start making those associations. They're like, oh, this person, you know, Sue likes dinosaurs and David likes the color blue. That's how I remember things. So that helps me. Obviously, this takes a little bit of time. So if you have some time either at the end, you can just do this for fun. Of course, as long as the students have the language to do so. You can keep it very simple. Also, using the name picker may let your shyer students know that it's safe to eventually volunteer. We don't want, I'll touch, maybe not today, I won't talk about mistakes and correcting mistakes, but at the beginning you want to make sure that, you know, you let your students, hey, even though I'm a native speaker, it's okay to volunteer and make mistakes. Don't be scared. And sometimes it takes, you know, using a name picker to get them to talk. And once they see that, or once they see that what's going on with the other classmates, they're like, oh man, okay, I'll volunteer next time. So that's name pickers. All right, next one. Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? Incorporating more visuals and or realia. What do you think? All right, Georgia, Danny, 2, 2, 2s, 2s. All right, I got a lot of 2s. All right, this one is definitely instructional. There's no overlap. In the other one, we had a little bit of overlap. This one, we don't. This one's pure instructional. Where's my? You know, try to use props if you have some, especially when you're using basic vocabulary, and that might be even flashcards. You can create your own. Google is your best friend. There's tons of things on Google, any search engine. There's pictures everywhere. Your LET, even your school might already have some props that you can use, like musical instruments if you have a lesson on music. So yeah, definitely instructional. All right, next one. Information gap activities. Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? What do you think? If you don't know what this is, if you've never used it, what do you think? 4 question mark. 4, 3. Oh, we have some disagreement. Does anybody know what this is, an information gap activity? No, okay, that's perfectly fine. Research. So I'm not gonna get into it right now too much. So basically you have 2 students. One student has half of the information, the other student has the other half. They have to talk to each other so that they can fill in their gaps in their half of their paper. And this has so many variations. You can do it with puzzles. You can do it with simple pictures. You can do it, you know, a drawing type of thing. Oh my gosh, so many things that you can do with it. If you're you have advanced students, crossword puzzles, they love those. But this one is more on this one is again an overlap of instructional because you're using an activity that, a well-prepared activity for your student that has some type of meaningful task. And then interactional, because you have two students interacting. Thinking, possibly, actually, a lot of you said thinking, and that's very possible depending on the content and how you use it. That you can sprinkle some of that in there. Why not? All right, how about this one? Using a timer, like I just did earlier, or a bell. What do you think? Management, instructional, interactional thinking. Once. All right, consensus. Oh, we have a 2, instructional. So instructional would relate more to content. So using a bell from, I think most of you are right. It is management. I would say it falls under management. This keeps your class, structured. It keeps your class going, so that for you and for the students, by the way, not just for the students, but also for you, especially at the beginning, since your time management, you're trying to figure out your time management. There's different timers, but make sure that they are visible so that the students can see them or hear them sometimes. Maybe you can use a second device, like if you have a tablet, or if you can do a split screen on your smart board. If the students cannot see it, again, as long as they can hear it, that would be a little bit helpful. These are some that I've used. Classroom Screen, that's the one that I used earlier. OnlineStopwatch.com. This one is, I used to rely on this one all the time when I started teaching. It's a great one, and there's different variations. And you can do a, full screen, really big, so that the students can really see and you can keep them on task. And YouTube, for example, this one that I have right here is from YouTube. Oh, see, background noise, there it goes. This one's from YouTube. I was able to insert a timer. You just go to YouTube and search 20-second timer, 1-minute timer, 10-minute timer, and you can find them on YouTube. All right, next one. Connecting lessons to students' interests and lives. 1, 2, 3, or 4. What do you guys think? Interactional, or maybe there's some overlap. Oh, now you get it. Maybe there's some overlap. Ooh, I like it. Now you guys are thinking. Awesome. 3, 2, 3, 4. 4 is 3. Cool. So this one is how I see it. It would be thinking, for sure. You're getting the students to, make that connection to their own life. And that sometimes facilitates the learning. And instructional, because again, you're preparing something meaningful for the students. You're just not giving, busy work. You're actually spending the time so that to create a meaningful lesson. I don't know if you guys have heard about this analogy of peeling the fruit, where step number 1, you describe what do you see, simple. Number 2, go deeper. Number 3, ooh, how does this fit into that? And you can go deeper and deeper and deeper, into the fruit. I like this because it's easier than Bloom's taxonomy. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, which they use a pyramid. But maybe I like this a little better. Again, I'm a visual learner, and anything that uses visuals for me is right on. So yeah. So thinking and instructional. Obviously, you can make it interactional, you know, if you have students sharing answers, then there you go, that's your interactional. This is the last that we will do about on thinking, just because we want to stay within like basic classroom management, or I want to stay in that realm. I will have a, let me show it to you. I will eventually, I will, when you guys receive my PowerPoint, I will give you this PDF with all of the resources that I'm showing you right now, all of the resources, and links, so that you can see a little bit more on, especially the thinking, if you're interested. You don't have to, but it's there if you would like to learn a little bit more or go more in depth. All right. All right, next one, number 2, 3, or 4, modeling an activity. What do you guys think? Modeling an activity. 1, 2, ooh, 2. 2, okay, we have seen some 2s. 1, 2, 2 3s. 2 3s, all right, all right, all right. 1s, okay. 1 2s, okay, cool. All right, we have all kinds of answers. So I think is instructional, because again, you're preparing part of your lesson so that your students are ready to do the content or to learn the content. Perhaps a little bit of management, just because you don't want chaos in the classroom or confused stares. So there might be a little bit of management in there as well. But I put it more on the instructional aspect. And yes, you should spend time modeling. You know, you have a co-teacher. You and your co-teacher model activities before you send off your students to do the activity. If you don't have a co-teacher, which could be possible, I'm not sure, use a puppet or use another student to help you out. Or if you think 2 students got it, have them model it for everybody else. When you're modeling, especially the younger ones, you can, something really cute that you can use is the whole monkey see, monkey do. So you know, when you say monkey see, the students are supposed to see, you know, watch you as you model, and then you go monkey do, and now the students can do it if you think they're ready. If not, then model in a different way. But modeling is such a strong tool that you can use. So don't be shy to use it. Like I said, you or your co-teacher, you and a puppet, whatever it takes. I've had to model things halfway. So sometimes I think, oh yeah, my explanations, my instructions were great. And I say to students, all right, go. But then as I'm walking around, I notice that something is off. Maybe they didn't get it 100%, and you know, they're a little confused. So then I'll say, okay, stop everybody. And then I'll say again, okay, monkey see, and then we'll do it again. It takes time. Sometimes if you're just doing the modeling part and then the next day you can get to the activity, that's okay too. But it's really important that you incorporate modeling so that you keep chaos and confusion down in your classrooms. One big thing, for example, that you will be doing at the beginning, perhaps your LET will do this before you get there. But what about classroom language? There are so many, you know, classroom expressions that we use that we don't think about them anymore, that, you know, our students may not know them. raise your hand, stand up, speak louder, pushing your chair. You know, so, sorry, repeat after me, listen, read, open your book, write, say. These are things that you should probably model using your own body language, or your co-teacher can help you there. And this is better than just simply giving a translation. The students, again, it might take a few times, but the students will get them, especially if you keep them short. But it's still classroom language. So yeah, start thinking how you may teach these, you know, just using body language so that you can model them. All right, next one. Talking to students during breaks or lunch to find out more about what they like or if they need any learning needs. What do you think? 1, 2, 3, or 4? 3, okay, interactional. Okay, 1 and 2, 1 and 3, okay. Cool, guys. Oh. Yeah, this one is pretty easy, I think, but it's very important, that interaction between a student and a teacher. Like you said, somebody said earlier, you know, if talking to my teacher outside of class, that's what I remember, or I know I did, or I do. Those little instances when that happened. So talking to students, you know, out in the hallway, as you're passing by during lunch, you know, you can do it. So as long as it's outside of class. So when this is happening, the students may be more relaxed. They aren't scared to make mistakes, and they access other ways to communicate. Perhaps they open up to you about something. It doesn't have to be something serious, but just something that you never thought they would share with you. Maybe you learn about their family. My favorite one is how students with who are, you know, beginners, how they start accessing other ways to communicate. It's really cool to see that. I remember when I was working with 3rd graders in Korea, for Valentine's, they're not allowed to bring candy anymore to school. So this little girl who would always follow me around, she eventually came up to me and she told me a story, just using her body language, about how she and some friends had candy. They went to the bathroom, they exchanged some candy for Valentine's, and they kept it a secret. And she barely used any English, but she communicated, and she wasn't scared to do that with me. So that was really cool, and I still remember the story from, you know, this was 10 years ago. Yeah, like, you know, they know that you're not going to be grading them, so they'll say whatever, however they can, to communicate. And it's really cool when they start doing that, when they start playing with the language. Playing with the language is a huge part of learning a language. All of you probably have, or most of you have taken language courses, and maybe sometimes there was a point in your, you know, as you were progressing, that suddenly you started, you know, mixing things and asking, oh wait, is this right? And then your teacher, your professor would tell you, yeah, that's awesome, and great, you know, you created something new, that you didn't think that was possible. And that's that little bump, that going from, you know, just, you know, your input to your output. All right, next one. Giving clear instructions with simple language. What do you think? Clear and simple. Management, instructional. What do you guys think? Come on, just Jamie? All right, here we go. 1 and 2, maybe there's some overlap. If there's overlap, that's fine. Great. Yeah, I would say, as many of you did, it's a little bit of both instructional and management. Instructional because you're preparing, you know, you're prepared to give it in a simple manner so that you know where your students' level is, so when you talk to them, they will understand. You're preparing yourself to do that. And management because if your instructions are clear and simple, then again, we might avoid chaos and confusion in the classroom. I don't have time to go into a video, but I'll show it. I'll link it up in your resources. It's just a short 1-minute video about giving instructions, but things to consider: your speed as you're talking. Make sure you pause enough so that the students can process what you just said. Put yourself in their shoes. They're, you know, here you come as a native speaker, and perhaps you're not aware yet of your speed, your pausing, your slang. You may get a lot of blank stares. So if you start seeing that, learn how to read your students, then think, okay, something needs to change. Your enunciation and because we have sometimes we do a lot of mumbling or slurring. For maybe the closest thing that I can think of that might actually happen is that fry voice that we tend to do sometimes at the end of sentences. The students might not be able to catch that last part because our fry voices start sounding like mumbling. You know, keep your instructions short and sweet. KISS, if you can remember KISS, keep it short and sweet. That'll help you monitor yourself as you're giving instructions. Possibly avoid commentating as you're giving instructions. We do this a lot as native speakers, you know, when we're just talking to each other. Maybe you wanted to add something funny. Hold off on that. And, you know, as your students get used to your speech, your style, perhaps you can do that later on along the way. But try to avoid it at the beginning. How can you check these things? Talk to your co-teacher. They might, you know, they've been through that. So ask them. And don't feel bad. Again, remember, we're professionals here, and we can take constructive criticism. If your co-teacher says, hey, you're going a little bit fast, say, okay, then I just need to slow down. If possible, when you're giving instructions and you think they're a little bit complicated, you can have the students repeat them back to you, or they can have you can have two students, put them in partners, and just teach each other the instructions. You can use Chinese or English if you think they can do it. This is one of my favorite things to do. I've done it with adults and I've done it with children. And, you know, like, I don't know if you've heard something along the lines of to teach is to learn twice. So if the students get to teach it, they will understand it better. And it can be instructions, or it can be some part of the content. All right, next one. Walking up and down the aisles as students work. What do you think? All right, Evan says 3. Other answers? 1, okay. 3. One, okay. Ooh, we have all kinds of answers. I like that. All right, don't worry. Like, for whatever I say, as long as it fits into your own mind, that's fine. Okay. I think it's a little bit of management plus a little bit of interactional, maybe with a sprinkle of instructional. So when the students are working, it could be independent work, or maybe group work or whatever, but the students are working alone, and take the time to walk around. Don't sit in the back. Why? Or, sorry, before I go on, you can, as you're talking, walk around, walk and talk. You don't have to talk in front of the class the whole time. You can, the students will follow you. Their little eyes will follow you. So if you're walking around and you're, as you're teaching, they will still pay attention because, they know they have to keep their eyes on you. So why monitor? Why walk around the aisles? You want to check, are they doing what you wanted them to do? Are they finding it easy or difficult? And that way you can offer modifications, or you can, if you need to stop and give instructions again, that's totally fine. Maybe they need help. And this is where I said it might be a little bit of an instructional sprinkle there. They might need some help, and you can just stop with one student or one group and help them out. You can check what they're writing, what they're saying, if they're working in groups or partners. We want to monitor these things again to so that you can avoid chaos, confusion. The whole part of management is about avoiding chaos, confusion in your classroom. So yeah, this one is definitely an important one. And what language are they using? Are they using the language that you wanted them to use? Sometimes when you're walking, or when you're walking, the students will quickly switch to English, and you're like, so you can monitor that. Or just, are they being nice to each other if they're working in groups? That's the other type of language, not necessarily English, but, are they being nice and working together, collaborating? So it could be many variations or meanings of language, the language part. All right. I want to focus on just management strategies, instructional, interactional, and thinking. Those will probably touch on those later on. Again, just because I want to make sure that you guys are ready when you set foot in your classrooms. Attention getters. You guys have probably done these when you were in middle school, maybe even in college. I know I've used them with my adult students. Keep it simple, or you can make them a little bit more complicated. Let me show you this one. It's a short video. Hopefully the audio is okay. And I need to fast forward.
If you hear my voice, clap twice, clap once, clap 0 times.
All right, I'll stop it there. I guess the audio wasn't great. I'm sorry. Again, this will be linked in your resources PDF that you will get. So what's the point of using attention getters? Anybody in the chat box would like to chime in? They're a huge part of your classroom management, but yeah, thank you, Danny. It brings back focus, quick, efficiently. Good, Peony. Yeah. So these are, yeah, it keeps your class on track. It's easier, you know, instead of you yelling, you might get a little bit of a sore throat the first week or so, by the way. Be prepared for that. You don't want to scream. You don't want to be screaming to get your students' attention. So if you train them to respond, they're called attention getters or call and response, by the way. So if you can get your students to respond to them, if you train them, then you know there will be less of that. Your voice doesn't have to go as loud. And you can do anything for your attention getters. I stole this idea from my sister, who is also a teacher, but she's a kindergarten teacher. She's a huge Disney fan, so she uses Disney ones. You know, Hakuna Matata, it means no worries, to infinity and beyond. Choose one, whatever you choose out there that, you know, you decide, just choose one to start with. Again, keep it simple. Yeah, they are super cute. Thank you, sister. Choose one. Get your students trained, and once they understand that they're supposed to respond to them, you can start introducing newer ones and more complex ones. Of course, model and practice. Older students, like maybe 6th graders and middle school students, they might not respond too well to, these like cute little kitty ones. So I have links. We don't have time to see them, but I'll give them to you in your resources. And this Disney one too, don't worry, you will also have this one. So they might respond to different ones or more simple ones, like the whole, if you can hear me once, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. Stuff like that, just simple. Or if you start finding out something that they like, you can use that as an attention getter. Once you start finding their interests, you can use that as an attention getter. So have you thought about these? Like, what is there one that you want to use, that you really want to use? Make sure you talk to your co-teacher. You agree on that you're using these, and then as you are adding more, your co-teacher is there to help you with these, especially the modeling part. Yeah, these are so cute. Noise levels. Well, again, I mentioned this before. Talk to your co-teacher. Do they like a loud, energetic classroom? Do you like it quiet? See where you are on that, especially when you start doing activities. And there are ways that you can manage that. You can manage these and get the students involved. This one called bouncyballs.org. The balls start bouncing as a noise gets louder. Classroom Screen, which is what I was using today, also has this feature, and it has a sensitivity. Both of these have a sensitivity level, so you can adjust those depending on the activity or what you're doing in class. Again, you will have these links, don't worry. I will give them to you. Providing classroom rules. Oh man. You know, talk to your co-teacher. They may know what is needed more than you, perhaps. Make sure they're visible. Make sure you can enforce them and that they're, you know, let the students know that there are consequences. Keep them simple, especially at the beginning. Tell students what they should do, not what they shouldn't do. This is just my own philosophy, by the way. You don't want to be negative. Do not da da da. Do not da 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 da. When I started teaching and up until probably my 6th year of teaching, these were my 3 rules. That's it. Be on task, be kind, and be on time. Especially number 1 and number 2 were very helpful, even with the little ones who didn't speak English. You can relate anything back to these. So if you want to go ahead and oh, by the way, these are I grabbed these from somebody else who taught these to me. So please feel free to use them as well. Now, after years of being in a classroom, I only have 1 rule. Can anybody guess what's my 1 single rule? In the chat box. It's 1 word. Try. Oh, that's a good one. I like that. Kindness. Oh, yeah. Okay, Charlie. Respect, respect. All right, fun. Ooh, yeah, fun, of course. Yeah, we definitely want our students to have fun. All right, so my 1 rule, Matt and Karenina got it. Respect. And you can link this back to anything. Respect each other, respect your teacher, respect the classroom, respect your learning, your learning and each other's learning. So that's what I use nowadays. I just write this word on the board and we talk about it. I usually start with maybe a translation and then students quickly know. They know this word. It's not, they've been in a classroom for a few years now. They understand this kind of stuff. All right, very quickly, hopefully, I think this is the last part about rewards. Some of you may be wondering about rewards. Should I use one? Should I not? I used one at my first year teaching just because I thought it would help me control, what was going on in my classroom. Eventually, I did away with it. But it's up to you. You can do individual, group, whole class. If Google is your best friend. Pinterest, any Pinterest people out there, look them up. They're out there. You can all find all kinds of cute stuff. TikTok, teacher TikTok, it's a thing. There's a lot of ideas out there for fun and interesting rewards. And you also want to make sure that, talk to your co-teacher again about, consequences. Will they be clean if there's a group who didn't earn enough points? Will they be cleaning or organizing at the end? Maybe they have to sing a song in the front of the class. This gets students really nervous, but it works. Maybe they have to stay at extra, minutes, time allowing, of course. Maybe you say, okay, class, we didn't work as hard today, so maybe we're just gonna focus on doing worksheets for the next class, and no games. Maybe once it gets serious, which I'm pretty sure it won't, you can do the whole private chat, calling parents, or talking to the principal, vice principal, counselor. Talk to your co-teacher about those levels. When it gets serious, what will be the protocol for your school? I know in Korea, students never go to the principal's office. So just, talk to your co-teacher to see if it gets to that. I'm pretty sure it won't, but maybe be aware of what could happen. Rewards, you can, of course, verbal, good job, awesome, fabulous. It gets students involved, and it gets them excited about, hearing praise, verbal praises. Candy, if budget permits. There's this thing called the Jolly Jolly Rancher Wars. It's really cool. Jolly Ranchers are still a thing, I guess, in classes. So you can use that when you have you put classes versus classes. You can do ticket raffles, you can do a homework pass, high fives, games, like a fun day of you just play games, or free time at the end. Maybe the students can choose their seat if you have assigned seating. All right, let's see, is that it? Yeah, okay. But again, so you want to make sure that there's, this reward and this a consequence. Let me go back really quick to the high five part, because I forgot about that. Maybe you get to teach, like, maybe not necessarily a high five, but you tell your students you're going to teach them something cool at the end of the class. And this is when cultural stuff can come in that is very American, or just English. So, teaching your students eeny, meeny, miny, mo. They might not know that, and once they know it, they won't stop using it. They like that kind of stuff, or teaching them patty cake for your the little ones, or showing them some aspect of American culture. They really appreciate that kind of stuff as a reward, or just as as an extra filler. Okay, so again, I will, don't worry about all the resources. I have everything put together in a PDF, so you will have that. We will take a 10-minute break. And after we come back, you will, Matt and Sean will take over, and you might see all of this that I just went through really fast in action. All right, guys? So let's be back in 10 minutes. Taiwan time. Oh, I always mess this up. Let's see, what time is it? It's 10:34, 10:44.
Yes.
Okay, yes, I got it. All right, guys, see you in 10 minutes.
Hey guys, I think we are ready to start back up. We have maybe 45 more minutes, depending on how things go. We had a question or a comment from Fonda, actually, and she was wondering, right? So the ETAs are going to start teaching in person, hopefully, in Taiwan around the middle of October. And the LETs will already be teaching, right? Your LETs will already have been with your students for about 6 weeks. So she's wondering how do we advise these new ETAs to interact with the LET, especially because they're just kind of going to be thrown into the mix when they have no rapport yet with the students and not much with the LET. So Matt, since you were there this past year, could they possibly have a day where before they even start teaching, where they just observe the LET in action, I think that's the best way to learn a lot. Is that a possibility, or is it just they just have to start teaching on the first day and just learn on the run? What do you think?
It's a good question, Sean. I think every school is different. So I'm sure if a ETA feels more comfortable observing day one, they can just talk to their LET, and I'm sure they can come to an agreement. Yeah, co-teaching, sometimes the LET will do the lesson, demo the lesson like the first class, and then now the ETA kind of knows the material and the activities, and then the next lesson might be the next class. Then the ETA can have a bigger role in the classroom as well. So I think observation is always good, and it can be an ongoing kind of routine where LET does maybe class 1, 2 as the leader, and then class 3 or 4, it's the same lesson, but now the ETA is very familiar with the management and instructional strategies, and that's a good balance as well.
Okay, cool. So it's pretty flexible. They just need to talk with the LET or somebody in the administration. Yeah.
Can I?
I mean, yeah, for sure.
Sorry to sound like a broken record. Talk to your LET before you set foot there, so that you know exactly what has been established already. It can't vary too greatly from what you probably are thinking about. But if it does, if there's something that you really, really want to get in there, especially like when it comes down to a class rule, incorporate it slowly, introduce it slowly. Don't just, come in there and be like, this is my rule. Like Sean said, they would already have been teaching for about 6 weeks. So there's stuff already established when it comes to rules, rewards, stuff like that. I know I've introduced rewards systems in the middle of the semester, and that's okay. You don't have to do everything at the beginning. You can take things slow, all right? So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I agree with Celine. You're going to be here for a year, so it's 2 semesters. So remember that. Yes, be very respectful of the LET's classroom. It is their classroom. If there's ever a problem with the classroom or complaints from the parents or the school, it's the LET that's going to get the brunt of that blame. So just be mindful of that. However, just always communicate your ideas, find this collaboration. And even if at first it's very textbook centric, your time will come. There's going to be gaps in the schedule after midterm, after final exams. There's going to be just large gaps. You might finish the semester 3 weeks early, and now you have 3 weeks of free topics, all right? So don't get frustrated early on if you enter the classroom and there's already set routines and you're like, what's my role? Just communicate with your LET, and gradually you will find your role and what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and if you're not sure, just ask. There's nothing wrong with asking. It's better to be safe than sorry, especially since we're on the topic of classroom management, right? Okay, so as promised, we are going to watch a video. Matt, do you want to introduce the video? Give them some context.
Yeah, so we're gonna watch a 10-minute video. It's a video of a very high energy game called Four Corners. And I think some of you found Four Corners in your activity scavenger hunt. It is a general use activity. General use means it's kind of plug and play. You can insert pretty much any target language or vocabulary into this activity. And what you do is you put 4 vocabulary words in the 4 corners of the classroom, and you're going to have the students stand up and they get to go to one of the corners, and then you're randomly going to select one of those 4 vocabulary words. And if the students are in that corner, they're out and they have to sit down. And the round is just going to repeat the same way. You know, they get to choose another corner. You choose one of the vocabulary words. If they're in that corner, they're out and they sit down. So I wanted to focus on a high energy activity for classroom management, because I think if you can manage just a very high energy activity, then all the other stuff is just a piece of cake, right? So then low energy activities are pretty basic. I will caution you, this activity, have heard ETAs, they've lost control of this activity, and they lost the privilege for doing other activities for 2 weeks, you know? So the LET was like, oh, that was a disaster. We're just gonna do the textbook for 2 weeks. But it does happen. But I want you to focus on the energy of the students, and then how is it balanced, right? Yes. And then Sean, you want to frame the questions, what to look for?
Yeah, so we're gonna keep it very simple. I know it's tempting when we're watching others teach to comment on anything we see, you know, especially the pedagogy, like, oh, I wouldn't teach it like that. But we're not gonna go there. We're just gonna focus on the classroom management, how the kids are behaving, how the 2 teachers are interacting. So what we're gonna talk about after the video is what went well in terms of classroom management and what do you think could be improved, if anything. So that's it. We're not gonna comment too much on the teaching style, but more on just managing the students. So do you want me to share the screen, Matt, or is Kenny? Okay, we'll do that.
Can Matt share? I didn't get the slides.
It's just a link, Kenny. Do you wanna play the link on YouTube? Is your microphone okay?
Let me check.
OK 吗 So can I change this one? Yes or no? Yes or no? Hello? Yes, yes or no? Yes. OK, so everyone repeat after me. I can get to, ready, go. I can get to the library by bus. OK, what does it mean in Chinese? I can get to the library by bus. Okay, okay, 那他是去图书馆 Okay, good job.
Okay, what about this one? What is this word? What is this word? Scooter.
Scooter, good job.
So if I replace it here, everyone say the sentence.
Ready, go. I can get to the library by scooter. Good. So let's have it again. Okay, so we are going to have it again. Corner again. 角落生物。Okay, so.
Okay, so repeat after me. I can get to the library by scooter.
I can get to the library by scooter.
I can get to the library by train.
I can get to
the library by car.
I can get to the library by car. Okay, everyone, attention. 1, 2. Each team 5 chances. 5条内容多出来的那条依旧放在组长身上。Leaders, okay? So leaders, you have the second chance. 你有第二个机会。那 OK 好， so everyone stand up. Attention. 1, 2. 我先让你们选卡片哦。OK 好，来 5 seconds go. 1， 就有的就好了。2. Take your time. 3, 4. 我就随便选会。好，再来。OK.
Okay. The key students, number 23.
20, 我们的发现还是 20. Oh, sorry, 23. 23. Okay. Okay, everyone, let's say the sentence together. I can ready. Go. I can get to the library. By car. Go back to your seat. CAR, bye-bye. Okay. Turn. There you going. Go back. Okay, sit down. Okay. Hello, everyone. Attention. Oh, okay. Okay, so everyone, take your time, okay? Be careful. 小心一点，我会数很慢的 ，OK? 5 seconds 啊，先选择 1, ready, go. 1, 2, 3. 我叫你们可以数条命哦。Hello, which side? This one? This side?
Okay. Key student is number 16.
6号，我的第二人，6号。好，来出发的 car. Okay, everyone, ready? Sentence. I can ready. Go. Get to the library. By scooter. Scooter, bye-bye. Scooter, bye-bye. Okay, scooter, bye. 哎，我上了5个人呢，如果25个人就一人一条哦。你们那5个人一人一条哈，我把很多遍哦，好。来 ，everyone attention. 1, 2. Okay, 5 seconds. 5秒钟 ，ready go.
3,
Take your time, be careful.
1. Okay, stop moving. Key student number 5.
5.
Number 5.
What's number 5? Come here. Everyone ready? I am ready. Go. I can get to the library. By car. Hello? Who? Choose CAR. Okay, go back to your seat. Okay, now let's. Okay, stop here. One more. 最后一个 person. Okay, 5 seconds. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No one to stay here. Taxi? No.
Okay, key person number 10.
10. Okay, no, come here. Okay, ready, everyone? I can ready. Go. I can get to the library. 1. Team 4, 2. Team 4, 2. Team 5, 3. Team 5, 3. Sit down, sit down. Okay. You know, 1, 2. Okay. Final 1, 2. Okay. Okay, so. Okay, so everyone, let's read us test again. I can ready, go. I can get to the library by MRT. Okay, we are going to have the second round and we'll like how MRT is here. Okay, ready, second, ready, go. I can get to the library by is here. You got Katie and teacher. What? Everyone here. Ready, go. I can get to the library by bus. Okay, bus is no one sitting here, right? Here. Okay. Other one. Ready, go. I can get to the library by boat. Okay, very good. Okay, 5 sentences. Okay, thử tháo đi nào để thử tháo đi. Everyone stand up. Attention. Are you ready? Ready, okay. Take your time. Okay, mấy bạnถ่ายvideo không hài qua video rồi. 5 seconds. Ready, go. 1.
All right. Thank you, Matt, for sharing your screen with us. Hopefully you guys got at least the audio. I think the video was slightly choppy for me, but I think we got the gist. So Matt mentioned it's a 5th grade class. Context matters, right? So their age is important. We should also note that seems to be the first month of that class. So they're still kind of new. We can't be too harsh, because it seems like they're still in the first week in September of last year, and obviously they're teaching at in the pandemic, right? So everybody's wearing masks. Pretty tricky. So let's try to be fair, right? Could we have maybe a couple people raise their hands? Let's start with positives. What did you like about their management style? What vibed with you? What do you think you would do as well? What did you like about their management style, about their teamwork, about their interactions with the students? Anybody want to start us off? All right, Charlie, please start us off.
One thing I noticed was it seemed like they did a good job of explaining like what the activity was before they did the activity. And that would help for sure.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, I mean, that's part of management, like being clear, right? So we can't expect them to perform well. We can't control them very well if we don't give them clear instructions. That's not very fair. So very true. It's connected to teaching, but also to management, being clear and explaining the assignment. It's very true. All right. Did anybody see the way they were speaking to the students in the beginning of the video? Like they just didn't shout out, they didn't raise their hands. How did the students express that they wanted to say something? Did anybody catch that? Yeah, Jamie.
Didn't they have like a popsicle stick holder to like raise their hand with?
Yeah, that's what I saw, like some kind of wand, right? Some kind of custom wand. Good idea, right? You know, spend 20 minutes at the beginning of the school year, giving them some kind of contraption they can erase, nothing that where they can like whack another student and hurt them, but something kind of individual and customized. Yeah, I like that. It's not just raising your hand, right? They actually have to pick up a certain stick, and it's more organized. Okay.
Sorry, I don't know if Matt can help me out here, but from watching the whole video, I thought there were like, because if you notice, it wasn't just a wand, it had like a little paddle, and I think maybe their name was on there. Am I wrong? They seem to, at some point, like one of the teachers looks at the little paddle so that they can read the name, because they're still learning the names. Am I wrong?
I think the names were on them. So it's a little popsicle stick with a name card. And so it's like, you saw almost everybody was raising it, instead of hands. So maybe you'll have one or two hands, but this little manipulative. But yeah, it's a great way to learn their names because now you have a, visual reminder of it.
Yeah, you've probably tried making little name tags with students, the 3 folds, and it's like a triangle. Most of them don't really like making those. They lose them. So yeah, the magic wand for kids sounds like the way to go. Plus their names on it. Nobody's gonna steal it. You don't have to remember their name in the beginning. That's helpful. Okay. Yeah, Danny, do you have anything else positive you want to add about the management style?
Yeah, kind of expanding on the names on the wands, I noticed that they were using numbers to call up students to the top of the class so that they could speak. And I thought that was a really useful technique, and it seemed to work really well with their classroom. I also really liked that they made really good use of 2 teachers. Like one was cleaning as they were setting up the next one, and they were kind of alternating who called out the numbers, and I thought that was really helpful.
Yeah, great point. The LET is very active. We can say that, right? So she's very good with moving around. I won't get into too much about the moving around because we might save that for improvements. But does anybody else want to share anything else they liked? Or Matt, was there anything else you want to throw in that you think is good?
Yeah, I agree absolutely with Danny, that you have 2 teachers, and sometimes you'll have an amazing activity and one teacher's leading the whole activity, and the other is just other teachers in the corner and kind of left out of the fun, or they're not a part of it. So even if the role is small, make sure your LET is part of your activities and make sure you are a part of theirs.
Right, and actually the person behind the scenes might be really important actually, because they're making sure everybody's on track, they're listening. So even if they're being quiet, doesn't mean they're really keeping everybody involved. Yeah, Angel, please.
Yeah, I was gonna say that their attention getters seemed effective. Like she did it throughout the class, but the class responded quickly to when she said attention, and then they would say 1, 2.
Yeah, for sure. They had their call and response, right? It was 1, 2, and something. Yeah, they did that a few times.
Yeah, I'll add to that. It's like when I'm watching it, I'm thinking, oh, this class is getting out of control. And then the LET would have her attention getter. Like her timing, I thought was pretty good with that. Like, she really knew how to walk that fine line between high energy and then out of control. And that attention getter, was a great way just to pull students a little back towards that well-managed high energy activity.
Yeah. So does anybody else have something else they liked, or should we move on to improvements? We've only got about 20 minutes, so should we move on to constructive feedback? Avery, do you have something to say? You look like you have an idea about what you would improve about the management.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree with what everyone was saying too about the positives. I thought that maybe, I think you touched on it too, that there could have been maybe a little bit more teamwork between the ETA and the LET. LETs did seem like maybe more involved, but the ETA definitely was helping run the activity as well, but maybe could have handled or helped with more of the actual classroom management part of it. And maybe setting some more rules, maybe no running. I feel like I remember always being told like no running in the classroom or no running here or there when I was younger. And I'm sure that they probably did mention that, but again, children and students get excited, but that could have been another like management type of rule that they maybe could have enforced or better, perhaps.
Yeah, that's really, really great. I'm hearing like two things. So first of all, the ETA's behavior, and secondly, kind of the arrangement of chairs and the management of the room itself. Does anybody else have a comment on the ETA, his presence, his involvement, his posture? I mean, anything about his involvement, his management style? He's not here, right, Matt? So they can say what they want. He's not listening.
Yeah, he's not here, but let's be positive and fair. But I agree with Avery. About the no running. So I did hear them say no running. Don't run, calm down. But if you just say it, they kind of ignore you, right? So there was no consequence, and it's just like you're training a dog. And this is a bad metaphor, but if you just yell at the dog, no, don't do that. The dog does it anyway. You need some consequence. And in this case, you have a point system. So if they're running, okay, this team loses a point. Now you didn't waste energy yelling at your class. They're not conditioning themselves to ignore you when you give rules. So one of the benefits of a reward point system is you can remove points, and now you don't have to manage with strict authority of disciplinary yelling at your class. You can still be positive and happy. Teacher, oh, team one, you lose a point, you're running. So I think this is a great way just to maintain a positive classroom that is well managed.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
Well, you guys only saw the activity part of it, but and I don't think in those 10 minutes they make a mention of, because there is a reward system going on in the background, and like there was no consequence, when the students suddenly got way too excited. Just walk slowly and take off points, and the students see that. You saw how excited they got to play the game, and they know because it gets them points. So they keep track of that. So if you just walk slowly there and, take off a point, they know what's wrong. You don't need to tell them. They know what's wrong. For the whole running part, I would, maybe I just would have, when I'm giving instructions, I would have said, go to a corner, choose a corner, and do it slowly. I would say, don't run. I like to try to stay away from negative, language in the class. So I would have said, that would have been part of my instructions, because I know children run and they can hurt themselves.
Yeah, in fact, the fact that they're running means that they're really into the game and they forgot the rules. They really want to win. So it's not all lost, but definitely you don't want them tripping or something. So in that case, maybe you want to have them push all the chairs into the center before you start. But also, if you notice throughout most of the class, the aisles aren't really neat. It's not really straight. I don't know about your teaching style, but usually the older kids they might try to move their chair a little bit. If they don't want you walking near them, they'll make something in the way. So it's always good to have clean aisles, because the LET was circling a lot. She was going around them a lot, which is better than staying in the front. But if you can't go in between them, sometimes look over their shoulder, then they're not really on guard as much. So something to think about before and after, keeping the lines neat so you can move around, and also making sure they don't trip on the chairs by pushing them to the center. Emily.
Yeah, one thing that I guess we don't really know the context of the school or like their situation, but just being like conscientious of noise, like classroom noise, and the other classrooms that are around yours, I think is really important. And like thinking about your resources, whether like if you're able to go outside, like in the courtyard, maybe to do the game, since it is a really active game, and also that would eliminate like tripping over chairs or things like that. And then if you can't do that, maybe like establishing, I know growing up, like with noise levels, we had like kind of the color system of like red, you're like in the danger zone with the noise, and we need to like get back to yellow or green. So maybe just like being conscientious of that. But like I said, I also don't know if, you know, that day they were able to have a more loud classroom. But yeah.
Yeah, Matt, you would know better. How often are they allowed to go outside? I mean, I'm thinking not very often, but is it possible that they go outside for games or activities sometimes?
Yeah, it's possible. It is hot though sometimes, so heat can be a factor. And students might, usually in between classes, they're always running around outside. But yeah, it's always possible to go outside. Just discuss with your LET. And yeah, and to your point, Emily, different LETs and ETAs are going to have different levels of noise that they're acceptable with and that they think is appropriate. Some LETs and ETAs might enjoy a very loud class like that. Some LETs or ETAs might prefer, you know, a quieter class. And yes, it depends a lot on who's your neighboring classrooms. You don't want to interfere with the classroom next door either.
Any more comments on their classroom management style? What could be improved? One thing that stood out to me is that because everybody has a mask on, when you're teaching, you just have to be a lot more expressive. They can't see your mouth. And sometimes we don't always express with our eyes. It's really challenging, right? So yeah, I think it's really important to express what you want to express using your hands more, and especially, you know, you have to, I guess as a teacher, the more you do it, you're more aware of your presence and how you're perceived by students. So you wouldn't know this, but I'm 5'9", Matt's 6'3". So when he stands in front of a bunch of kids, he has a different presence. It's not an intimidation thing or a bad thing. It's just, you know, he has a little bit maybe extra power at his disposal because he's just bigger, you know, and so you just have to be kind of aware of your posture and, you know, use your strengths. If you're a bigger person, you know, you have to be mindful not to be too scary when standing over a student. But when you're in front of them, in front of the room, you know, you can use your arms to be very open, engaging, inviting. And, you know, and in the case of the LET, she's super energetic, right? She's not going to be at the front, like overpowering the students, like, hey, look at me. She's going to do it more with talking loudly, moving around. So yeah, it's tough with a mask on, but you have to find ways, and they do a pretty good job. But, you know, with the ETA, you know, he's a pretty strong presence at the front of the room, and he could really use his body more to elicit attention, I think. Sorry, Matt. It's good that you're tall. It's a good thing.
Yes, Sean is scared of me, I think. I just learned. But one other positive I had, I think they effectively used that reciting the target language as a classroom management technique, you know, after each round, you know, the students are practicing the language. It's getting the language practice, but that's also an opportunity to ground the students' energy. And if you notice, they did 2 rounds. So they had everybody sit down after the first round. So that way, anybody that's out isn't out for too long, right? So when you're out, you sit down, and now they're disengaged and bored. So I thought they did a good job of having 2 rounds. So now the second round, everybody can play again. And also in between rounds is, again, everybody sits down, everybody calms down, they practice the target language again. And it's a great way to ground students during high energy activities.
Celine, any comments? Any comments on your presence? How tall are you?
I am 5'3", but I have a great teacher voice, everybody can hear me all the way in the back. I never need a microphone, which is something that if you notice, maybe you notice this in the LET was using a microphone. If you need to use it, there might be one available for you. So, remember, we're not screaming. We're not here, to be the parents. But maybe some of you, maybe your volume, you're still, trying to see where your volume as a teacher is. I tried using one at the beginning. Eventually, I found my teacher voice, and I didn't need it anymore. But that is available, and it's, again, it's just so that your voice can project a little bit more so that the students in the back can hear you. But if you're walking around the aisles, like I said, right, if you're walking around the aisles as you're talking, it gets the students in the back too. They, you give them that opportunity. My other comment about the ETA, or I don't know what's, it's only been a month since he's been there. I wasn't sure, what's the dynamic, if how comfortable he, or how much the LET is giving him in terms of those attention getters. If you notice, the call and response was only managed by the LET. I don't think I saw, at least not in this short, in like these 10 minutes, I don't think the ETA used them. And did he? I don't think he did. And if he did, it was only once. But the LET, she was definitely on it. But yeah, so maybe, I don't know, maybe there's the think about those things. Again, you're going to go in there 6 weeks in. If an attention getter has been established already, let your LET know that you want to use it, so that both of you can use it, and eventually maybe introduce one of your own so that both of you can have one.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's, students can memorize more than one attention getter. So if you'll hear the attention 1, 2, very, very common, almost all Taiwanese classrooms. But yeah, I think the students will really enjoy hearing your own attention getter, and it creates more engagement too, because now they're always on edge for 2 attention getters, or maybe even 3. Who knows?
Any final comments, either on the 10-minute video we just watched or on Celine's presentation?
I think a lot of people talked about where the LET and the ETAs are standing and about like the classroom seating. And so I was thinking to myself, maybe there could be a conversation between the ETA and the LET about swapping sides of the classroom every other class, just so that the students are used to your presence on one side or the other, and you kind of pick up on interactions that the other person might not pick up on as a leader of the classroom. But in addition to that, I think you could potentially also just do seating like rotations. So every couple of weeks, every month or so, just keep, changing around the seating of the classroom so the students get used to every part of it.
I like that idea a lot. I always switch my students around. My average is every 4 weeks. I will have students change seats, and this is where you can use your reward system. They can choose their seat. But yeah, that's a great idea. Switch them around so that they experience all parts of the classroom. Good idea. Other thoughts, ideas, questions?
Yeah, I had a quick question, and I don't know exactly how to phrase it, so bear with me, but how would a classroom management scenario change rather than having an LET, but having a homeroom teacher that is still in the classroom, but not focusing on the English teaching part of it? So not necessarily that you're like there by yourself, but you have someone there that's not necessarily focusing on the English language aspect.
Do Do you mean how will the homeroom teacher help you manage the classroom?
Yeah, like how do you go over those kinds of scenarios? Like, is it more the is it more the homeroom teacher versus ETA? And I don't know if you have experience with that.
I've worked with homeroom teachers, and it tends to be they want to focus more on the management aspect of it, and getting the kids to settle down. If they have a reward system that is already going on for the class, they take care of that to help you out. But again, talk to them before you start, working with them, and see if you would like a little bit more help with maybe even helping you model activities. Talk about that. Maybe Matt has encountered with previous ETAs that they had this, not an issue, but how do you deal with your homeroom teacher?
Yeah, so I'll say I think students are mostly what's the word? The homeroom teacher is mainly the disciplinary, because they feel an obligation because their class has to go to all the different classes. So if their class is misbehaving, every kind of teacher, all the directors, all the admin at the school are kind of going to pressure them. And I don't know how directly, but hey, what's up with your class? Like, they were terrible in my class. So a lot of the times you'll find the homeroom teacher to be kind of strict. They're really clear in their behavioral expectations, because it falls on them if their students are misbehaving in other classes. When they go to their science class or their art class, and if they're bad, that teacher is going to have a talk with the homeroom teacher, and hey, you got to be more strict with these students. So I think a lot of times the homeroom teacher is kind of the most strict in terms of classroom management, and the students might be the most afraid. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's what I noticed.
Sean, do you want to add to that, or anybody else has other questions? Something that's on your mind? I know it's a little scary. We've all been there. I just want to say my last, I guess my final thoughts on this, the whole classroom management thing. Focus on preventing, not punishing. Go slow, model, make sure you have, like structure in your class, all of these things. Even your own, as Sean was saying, even your own presence in the classroom affects how your students will react to you. If you want to create a bond with them, that rapport, then maybe being super strict may not be the best answer. So, just keep that in mind. Bad behavior in the class does not necessarily mean right away punishing. It's a learning opportunity for the student too, and for you as a teacher. This is a very maybe on the parenty side, but students need to know how to behave in the classroom. So if take that opportunity to give them that chance to learn how to do that. And like I said, preventing, I think, is better than, because you don't even have to get to the punishment. Matt, Sean, any final thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's much better to prevent than to deal with the, what happens, right? But I think also with final thought on classroom management, a lot of it you just learn in the moment. Even we can tell you so many things, and you might recognize it. Oh, Celine warned us about this. But sometimes you'll just be like, oh, things are fine. They're having fun. No, nothing's going wrong. And then 5 seconds later, it's out of control. So part of it is just you have to be ahead of them, see where it's going, see the kid that's spazzing out too much and kind of bring him back to earth. before he interrupts the whole class. So yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard being super proactive in the class because you like, as a teacher, you kind of want to let them go and try and experiment and try to do it without telling them to stop or don't do it like that. But sometimes, yeah, you have to reach out and say, hey, you know, before things get out of control. Yeah. So unless you have anything else, Matt, we're meeting them again Thursday, Taiwan time, for me and Matt's presentation, right?
Yeah, Thursday we'll focus on games and activities, so we can also discuss like the management of it. But just to keep in mind that you all did a great job with the activity scavenger hunt. But I think now the next step is, you know, you have this activity you want to do, but what management strategies are you going to insert into the activity and where? So today, I think from the video and Celine's presentation, you learned, you know, how to use attention getters to ground your students, how we can use the target language to ground the students, and how we can use point systems, reward systems, and the removal of those points to manage our classrooms while still having very fun and high energy activities.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us. Oshan, did you want to add something?
No, yeah, this is good. We'll see them Thursday, and we'll also see them on the Google Classroom, right?
Yeah, keep an eye out. We will post my PowerPoint and that PDF with the resources that I introduced today for you all. They'll have links so you can just click on it very easily. All right, well, good night, good evening. Have a great lunch, have a good dinner, go to sleep, wherever, I don't know, whatever you're doing. So thank you for being here. See you guys. Bye-bye.